Good evening. This is your host, Dan Stafford with the Midwestern Geek in Cali, and tonight I've got a special episode. This is episode 107, and I'm calling it The Shadows Eating the Whispers of the World. And we're going to get into this in a bit. This is an episode that I've been wanting to put together for about 2 months now, maybe a little bit longer. And then a new story broke on the news today that really made me decide to go ahead and get this thing out and get it in the public eye. I think this is an important story. I think most people aren't really aware of what's going on here. And I think people need to be woken up a little bit on this particular subject. So, what I'm going to present to you is all factual stuff. Um, it's been going on for a few years. So it's important to talk about this because this has got to do with something that you use every day in your everyday life. And you're really being exposed to some serious risk without even realizing what's going on. So I want to enlighten folks and make them aware of what's going on here, what some of the options are, and some of the obstacles that are coming their way. So I'm going to go ahead and dive into this. We're going to get a little bit of infinity screen going here for a minute. And of course, I need the readers for this. So let's get over to the infinity screen here, and I'm going to give you a little desktop, and we'll just take a little spin down the rabbit hole here. Away we go. All right, so we'll say goodbye to that. Head over to the blog for a little bit. This is my website, Midwestern Geek in Cali. Yeah, it's a blogger blog. I'm old school. All the episodes that I've done in the past, or the vast majority of them, you can find here. You can reach this site by just putting in midwesterngeekincali.com. And I've got video and show notes, and you'll notice that all my shows I do show notes for linking, image files, the material that I'm working with, and all the articles that I'm referencing. I encourage people to go and read these articles in full. I'm going to try to give you the boiled down essence of these articles. So, this isn't going to be the longest episode, but I think it's going to be an important one. So, let's move on over into article territory here in just a second. Okay. This has to do with your smartphone. A lot of people have called these a spy in your pocket, and with good reason. So we'll pop back over and get into some of why. Okay. So this is an article from last November. Chinese hackers just gave us all a reason to stop sending SMS messages. Not necessarily stop sending messages. I wouldn't go that far, but use real caution in what you use them for. All right. Basically, the bottom line is Chinese hackers have gotten into the servers on the cellular networks that store SMS messages. Yeah, SMS text messages are stored in database servers, and their security is not the greatest at all. And those messages are sitting in long-term storage on these servers, And if hackers get in, they can get access to all kinds of data. Think about what people send on text messages. Shoot yourself a password, you get temporary access codes to get into secure websites. You get password reset codes via text messages. Those things are pretty critical data. People share all kinds of information on text messages because they feel like it's secure. It's just, like just between me and this one person. It's like private messaging. And I'm just going to real quick get over here and check my audio. Yeah, all right. Looks like I'm good there. I want to make sure I'm not messing this up fairly early on in the episode. Now, we've got a few more stories like this. Millions of SMS messages exposed in data security labs or database security labs. This is from last December. Uh, so we've got a couple of big ones here in 2019. You can go read these. This is TechCrunch, and this one was on Forbes. You know, pretty reputable websites. And we're going to go over here and take a look at this next article. A leaky database of SMS text messages exposed password resets and two-factor codes. All right, let's get off that. I mean, it loves to click away to something else. Look at this is from November of 2018. So this isn't really anything new, but you don't really hear a lot about it. So then the next story coming up here, excuse me, need a little bit of geek fuel. It's been a long day. Okay. So then the next story coming up here is new Android text messaging update exposes most users to hacking. This is also from November. Now, this is about Google's new RCS platform. And I think the point that the article is really getting at is all these new, wonderful, cool features that RCS has, it's still using the insecure servers on the back end that the old technology really used to store this messaging. And the same security problems exist. This advanced RCS messaging, while it has a lot of cool features, it's not really any more secure. There's serious issues with this. So we're going to switch over and talk about some of the other stuff going on here, and we'll get to all that in just a second. I want to give you some options here for what you can use to encrypt your text messaging. See, now here's the thing with encryption. What it really does is between you and the far end, it puts the messaging in code so that you can't really read. No one without the encryption keys can actually read these messages, including um, the servers on the cellular networks that store copies of these messages as they're being sent. This stuff is all scrambled in code. Now, WhatsApp is done to use that format. It's encrypted end to end by default. And the trick with that is you have to have WhatsApp on both ends of the text messaging stream. In other words, if both parties don't have WhatsApp, it's not going to be encrypted. And but here's the thing: WhatsApp is owned by a private company, by Facebook, which is subject to all kinds of government regulations and the whims of the corporate directors of Facebook, whatever their business needs are behind the scenes. It's not there for your best interest, it's there for their financial interest as a bottom line. And I won't say that's necessarily a bad thing. We live in a capitalist society, but here there's another alternative, and I'm going to get to that. I'm just going to show you that we've got a few more articles that you can take a look at evaluations. This is on Tech Radar of various encrypted text messaging platforms, and you can get a sense of what's really good. Now, here's another article on Engadget that has the safest messaging apps. Not all encrypted messaging apps are the same. You seeing that there? Yeah, they're not kidding. Now, I want to tell you about an application called Signal. Now, this is on Wired Magazine. Signal is finally bringing secure messaging to the masses. The encryption app is putting a $50 million infusion from WhatsApp co-founder Brian Acton to good use, building out features to help it go mainstream. In other words, Signal, it's an encrypted SMS messaging application. You can get it in the on Android in the Google Play Store. I believe it's available on iOS as well, Apple. Um, but the thing is it's kind of open source. So let's go over here and we're just going to do a quick Google search on Signal messaging app. I'm going to bring this up. Now, I'm not going to go to Signal's website. I want to get into the Wikipedia article on this. Signal software, Wikipedia. All right, yeah, this is what I'm after right here. Okay, Signal is a cross-platform encrypted messaging service developed by the Signal Foundation and Signal Messenger LLC. It uses the internet to send one-to-one and group messages, which can include files, voice notes, images, and videos. Its mobile apps can also make one-to-one voice and video calls. I'm going to add this link to the show notes in a minute here. I didn't put this in initially, but I wanted to get this. Signal uses standard cellular telephone numbers as identifier and uses end-to-end encryption to secure all communications to other Signal users. Um, so Signal software is free and open source. That's really an important point right there. And the Signal Foundation is a nonprofit launched in 2018. Um, and here's the thing. It's going to get into more details about what underlies Signal, but the bottom line is there's nothing, the messages that are going across the server, first, it doesn't know really who's sending the messages, and on the other end, on the other side of it, the messages are encrypted, and I don't think, if I remember reading correctly, that it really stores copies of them long term as well. So these messages aren't sitting around as a target, and they're encrypted. Even if they were found somewhere on a server, they're already encrypted with pretty high level encryption. So this is about as secure as you're going to get. And since it's a nonprofit, it's not going to be motivated by corporate profit motives that might have incentive to sell the data and things along those lines. So, personally, I recommend Signal. I use it as well. The trick part of this is if both people in a text messaging conversation are not using Signal, it's not encrypted because if one end's open, both ends are open. So if one end's sending everything in clear text, both ends are sending it in clear text. So, you know, this really would be something that it'd be great if, companies that are sending two-factor authentication codes were using Signal, and Signal will encrypt text messages by default if both ends are using Signal. That's a very important key thing to understand. All right, so both ends have to be using it. It's free, it's easy to use. They're constantly adding more features to it. And I suggest do a little more research than just what I've done and what I'm giving you here. But then we get into the last piece of this show, and I want a little bit more geek fuel here for this one. Okay, let's talk about this. This is a story that just came out on NPR today, February 21st of 2020. The Trump administration targets your warrant-proof encrypted messages. This is on NPR. And basically, the DOJ is looking to put through legislation that would allow the DOJ to put in backdoors to all encrypted messaging platforms and access. And basically, you can say goodbye to your privacy if this goes through, and it would allow the DOJ to have incredible power over what's allowed on the internet and what's not. I think this is kind of sneaky and dangerous, and it's not just because it's the Trump administration that I'm bringing it up. I'm thinking, I don't like government interfering in encrypted messaging, and I don't really care which party is involved in doing something like this or, what organization. I don't really trust anything like this going along. Now, you can listen to this in audio, it's part of a podcast as well from NPR. Um, it's really important to take a deeper look at it. And I don't want, again, you need to read the article on your own, but if they're going to crack down on encrypted messaging, and meanwhile, we're sitting here, hackers are getting into non encrypted messaging left, right, and sideways, that to me is a problem. Uh, that to me is, uh, if they're going to block encryption from being used, that's a worst case scenario in that it leaves text messaging exposed, and text messaging is used by most people for a lot of sensitive information. And this isn't about doing stuff in the shadows. This is about protecting yourself from the shadows and making sure that not any bad actor or dangerous organization out there can get into your text messaging and read, where are you going to be? What are you going to be doing? Who are you doing it with? Um, and possibly endanger your safety, or endanger your identity or your financial life. There's just so many reasons to make sure in this day and age that of all the channels that are safe and secure, it needs to be text messaging the most. This is I've talked before on this show about how people expect text messaging to be the one uncluttered, ad-free, short, sweet, and to the point. I can actually get a message through all the noise way of messaging each other. And since it is relatively distraction free and short and to the point, people tend to go to this when they want to do something now that's going to be a little more private because it's generally one on one unless you intentionally create a group text. But it's perceived by the general public to be a very private channel and an uncluttered channel. So people lean on this hard because everywhere else you look, there is an incredible amount of clutter on today's messaging and internet and social media. I mean, you can't go anywhere on the web without getting all kinds of winky blinky ads on your face. Your email inboxes get buried. Most people I know have multiple email addresses simply because they keep shifting email addresses to get away from all the ads and newsletters, and everyone under the sun wants to send you emails. You know your information gets sold, your email address gets sold, and the next thing you know, you're getting 400 million uh, political ads and news. Yeah, it's just it's insane. It's impossible to keep up with. No, and it just fills up and fills up. I can't even delete them all, and I'm pretty good at it. Yeah, I mean, it's just impossible to keep up with. So, bottom line is take a look into encrypted text messaging first, and then keep an eyeball on this stuff where the government's wanting to stick their nose in and maybe even disrupt encryption. I understand there's a need for national security, but I understand that we are supposed to have some kind of rights to privacy, and definitely we should have a right to be protected from stuff like foreign governments or foreign agents and criminals going in and getting at all of our highly sensitive data. So, I mean, everywhere you look, it's bad, but text messaging on top of it, that's one of the worst places that we could have it. And on that note, I'm gonna pretty much wind up the show, but I think this is an important thing to be said. So, uh, yeah, yeah, I guess that says it all. Anyway, thanks for watching. I wanted to keep this one short and to the point. And let's get off those and we'll flip back to the camera for a minute. As always, you can find us at MidwesternGeekandCali.com. If you go there and go along the right sidebar of the website, you'll find all the links to our social media presence, Facebook discussion group, Twitter page, at Midwest Geek Cali on Twitter. Hit us up, email me. There's links to email me, email addresses on the blog. I appreciate your feedback, and I think this is an important story. And again, thank you for taking the time to listen and spread the word. Let people know. I don't care if you share this story, this episode of the show, or if you share one of the articles that I just referenced. But I think this show kind of puts everything together with a little bit of context that's missing if you just see one of these articles standing on its own. I think once you put all of these pieces together, it tells a more cohesive story that's important to understand. I think it helps put pieces of the puzzle together better. And so pay attention. Start paying attention to this text messaging stuff. Watch your back out there. And I'm trying to help you do that. So again, thanks for listening. Have a great night and a great weekend. I'm probably going to have a massive, ginormous episode next weekend because stories are piling up. And I needed to take the time to get this out to you, so I didn't really get a chance to do all the tech news and stuff that I really love to cover. And there's a lot of fun stuff coming up too. It's not all dark and shadows, but dark and shadows exist too. So, yeah, take care. Keep your eye on the ball, and thanks for watching. And as always, may there never be a rogue wave in your coffee mug. And also, happy Vulcan fingers to you from the agent of 42. Live long and prosper and be safe and secure out there. All right. Thank you.